What is up, Whale family? Nytmare here, and this is Whale FM's Fireside Chat with Artists. In this show, we talk about everything and anything that is crypto art in the NFT scene with designers and creators alike, otherwise known as non-fungible tokens. My guest today is lolwtferic, Eric, an Asian American artist that has long been turning heads with his blend of pop art and West Coast flair. His love for hoops, cartoons, and street culture combined with introspection and social activism for an unmistakably unique style. Eric, I'm super hyped to have you on today. Thank you for joining us.
Dude, thanks for having me, bro. I'm very honored, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, I am too. Big fan of your stuff. But before we even get into it, I have to ask, because Heather and I were talking as we were creating this KV with your very cool Shack piece here. The WTF, what's up with that? Explain to us your name.
So, LOL WTF Eric stems from the fact that I occasionally say some pretty outlandish shit, like for the sake of a joke. So that's why I wanted to combine like both the LOL aspect and the what the fuck aspect of it. Am I allowed to cuss on this? I'm sorry if I'm cussing.
Yeah, you know what? I think it'd be pretty hard for us to have a show with artists and musicians without cussing. So, free reign here, I'm sure.
Okay, for sure. So yeah, that's where the LOL WTF comes from, because it's like I think about it like as people's responses to me when I say something. It's like, oh, LOL, what the fuck, Eric? So yeah, that's where that name stems from.
Okay, very, very cool. And just for everybody's information, you're currently in California, right?
Yes, sir.
So originally from LA, is that correct?
Mm-hmm. I was born in the San Gabriel Valley, down in a suburb of LA near Pasadena. I moved up here to the Bay Area about like I want to say 6 years ago.
Okay, very cool. Is it now the culture's a little bit different, right? I'm always hearing from friends out that way that the Bay is a different animal than LA. So you'll have to school me a little bit as we talk about some of the nuanced differences and whatnot there is about it.
Yeah, for sure. Like culturally, it's very similar in the sense that there's a lot of like parallels. There's like the demographics vary from here and there. I think there's like a much larger like Persian population down there. Up here, there's a much larger Indian population, but there's that constant of like Hispanic, Asian, blacks. From a vibe wise, ooh man, LA is different, because LA is like that center of entertainment. So you get a lot of people who like to show up more, they dress up more,
Right.
Extra effort into style. Not saying that people in the Bay Area don't, but it's a little more laid back here, which is cool. It's nice. And then being in the Bay Area, there's a lot more emphasis on nature, just because we're surrounded by forests. So you get that kind of like forest silicon tech vibe up here.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds familiar to me because I'm from Boston, and obviously we're, not that far from New York, but in New York you're trying to show out, and it's a whole different vibe with the money and everything versus up here. Also, my wife's from New York, and she thinks we're at a park when there's like a patch of grass on the highway versus where she came from in Queens. So definitely a little bit of a different nature reserve where I'm at. But yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us, who you are, and walk us through your background a bit to, how you got involved in art and where we are today.
Yeah, sure. So I'm LLWTF Eric. That's me. I've been drawing since I was a kid, getting a lot of influences from like watching a lot of cartoons like Simpsons, reading a lot of comic books, Simpsons, South Park, 90s cartoons like Hey Arnold, comics like, Garfield and Fireside. And I love strip comics. I love being able to convey humor in a very short, like 3-panel comic or even single panel comic like Gary Larson did. Always been creative, but always been kind of shoehorned into trying to be a normal student, which I don't think I did very well in. Like I struggled in school towards the later years just because none of it interested me. I wanted to make stuff. And I grew up in a community that was predominantly Asian down in San Gabriel Valley. And there's that expectation where like everyone's kind of competing to be like, the model minority Asian, and not fitting into that model minority was kind of like off-putting to myself. So I do, from a creative standpoint, like my creative career has always been there in the sense of it's been in the back of my head, but I've never actually really pursued it and really developed it until recent years. And after I moved up to the Bay and met my significant other, and just kind of wanted to dive into the local art community. So and my journey for my artwork, it's always been a reflection of my identity. I've always battled identity, in terms of who I am, what I stand for. And I try to portray that in my artwork. Like, it's usually a snapshot of my mindset at any given moment. So it's almost like a visual journal, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, and then, I don't know if you're being humble, but taking a look at your Insta was awesome because it literally goes back 8 years. And I don't know if this is an Insta specific to artwork, but that's what 90% of it is. So, saying you just got involved in recent years, I don't think is doing yourself the credit here. It's a long journey that you've been on, and you can kind of see the evolution of your work, taking a look at it.
Yeah, thank you, man. Yeah, like it started off like as like, Instagram. It's still kind of like a personal Instagram, just because I think my art is personal. I love tying it to my real life, and just dated back to what just kind of whiteboard doodles when I first started out, and just kind of wanting to share stuff with people that were in my circles. And then as I got older and developed more as an artist, I wanted to really emphasize my artwork and emphasize that aspect of my life, and kind of just only show parts of my real life when I felt were important, but also, kind of really trying to showcase, hey, this is my growth as an artist. This is things that matter to me in the present moment. Everything from, like you mentioned earlier, social justice to ventures with, battling mental, like mental struggles, like, depression and all that stuff. So all that I want to convey into my artwork. And yeah, you're right. It's been a long journey. And even though I've been consistently making art, and even though recently it was something that I put more emphasis on, it's something that I want to continue for just forever.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm glad you have made that decision, because you certainly have a ton of talent for it. Now, you talk about it something that you decided not long ago, relatively speaking, right? Because we're talking about years here. But I think I'd read that you actually were in the tech field. When did you decide, hey, I want to move forward and take art more seriously and focus on that?
Yeah, so a couple of years ago, before the pandemic happened, there was over here in San Jose, there's a local kind of craft fair where they artists from all over the Bay Area and all over, I guess, the state too. I met people from out of state as well. They come here and they just kind of like set up booths and sell like stickers, prints, candles, art. It was just like a big art community thing, and I'd never done anything like that before. And my significant other, who really pushed me to try it out, she's like, hey, you should try this out. You've been making stickers and pins. It would be cool to kind of get your name out there. And I attended it. And up to that point, I had only done art as kind of like an escape from reality. Like I'd make art just to de-stress from the horribleness of the 9-to-5 work life. And when I engaged in this thing and took part of this craft fair that was hosted by SJ Made, it really made me connected to the art community. Like I met so many creatives, I met so many people who were just out there doing stuff they love. Like even if they had day jobs, it was really empowering, and it was really, really cool to see. And I was like, man, you meet so many people, and you just vibe off ideas, and you learn so many things. And people who like who I would never come across, like just being in my own like bubble, where I'm like, you meet people who make a really cutesy art, cute people who make very like Coachella art-ish, for lack of a better term. And you just kind of see the process in which they approach their craft, and makes you want to strive for that more. And then I think that was the impetus. And from that point on, I really wanted to do more like public art, get my name out there more, meet more people, and learn.
Yeah, very, very cool. It was cool seeing you having so much in the physical form as well. If you take a look through your Insta, you see where I think you set up a mailbox also. You have pins, a bunch of stuff that you were experimenting with and putting out there. And did you have any formal education in art, or is it just something you picked up along the way with interest?
A little bit of both. My education career has been kind of all over the place. After high school, I went to an art school, but it was one of those like for-profit art schools that like really I should not have. It was like an TT Tech of art school, or art institute, which basically just hemorrhaged money from my parents, and I feel really guilty about. But I was like, oh my god, I didn't realize after the fact how much of a kind of scam it was, because it was one of those places where they kind of feed off taking FAFSA money, and then like kind of make you like you have to be in charge of your own success. And coming out of high school, I had no idea what the hell I was doing.
Right,
Like, hey,
right.
I'm going to art school. Yay, look at me. And then I ended up dropping out because I was like, oh, this is wild. So that was, in terms of formal art education, that was probably the extent of it. And then after that, it's mostly just been kind of like doodling on the side, looking and kind of digesting knowledge from things that interest me and trying to kind of incorporate those styles and interests into my own art pieces.
I think that's very cool, especially how it's evolved. I think, you know, one of the things that attracted me to your work right away was that unique combination of, like, you know, you have the cartoon aesthetic, but there's a hint of street art there, at least from my interpretation. You know, I don't know if you were out there throwing up burners, and I'm not trying to incriminate anybody, but, you know, I see a little of that, little maybe video game influence in some of the stuff also. I don't know if you're a gamer. If I'm misreading that, it sounds like maybe you are. But you can also definitely see what you're talking about, that this, you know, the art was cathartic for you in some ways. And you know, there's some thematically some things that spoke to me and kind of become apparent. You know, there's pieces where it almost looks like there's a little bit of exploration about like self-doubt, you know, juxtaposed with confidence, with a little bit of you know, not being sure about things going forward, with trying to steady yourself. So, you know, it really conveys. And as everybody knows on the Whale team here, I'm a big sucker for glitch art, and you do that very well. So, you know, that juxtaposition was very cool.
Thanks, man. Yeah, like in terms of like exploring those the psyche, it's something that's always been apparent with me. Like ever since I was a kid, I've been dealing with anxiety, and I've had really bad anxiety up until maybe a couple of years ago when I actually went to go get help for it. I went to go, you know, see a therapist and I was like diagnosed with general anxiety disorder and learned how to cope with that. And even to this day, I still catch myself, you know, trying to balance everything and trying to navigate through life and trying to be not just the best person I can be to myself, but to family, to friends, to everyone I meet. How do I walk that fine line while juggling a job, while thinking about how much of this job I need to sacrifice in order to focus on my art career, how much of that art career I can even get to, because with social media and now in the NFT space, you see so many crazy artists that are just so good. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm not on this level. And all that self-doubt and anxiety creeps in, and like part of, I think, growth as a person is to explore it and be okay with it and acknowledge that you know, negative thoughts will exist, and how can you turn that into something and manifest that into something that will empower you. And you know, it displays a level of vulnerability that I'm getting more comfortable with sharing, and in the hopes that, you know, other people that are going through similar struggles can use that and galvanize themselves.
You know, I love that. I did music myself for some time, and I always found that not only was it cathartic, but you can kind of delve deeper into an emotion and explore it beyond where you're at. You know, I would get into arguments all the time with girls I dated. They're like, "Is that how you really feel?" I'm like, "No, but there's a sliver of emotion there, right?" And then you explore it, and you're able to go to different bounds and kind of push yourself. And so, it's a great exercise. And when people evoke emotion like that, when people can translate that to you through something you see, through a piece of visual art or hear or music, that is really some of the most valuable things that you could pull out of art, right? Like when you can have an experience from seeing it. And so, you know, you're clearly someone that did this as a form of expression. And I think that's why it speaks to so many people and called out to me immediately when I saw it. So props to you for being able to really translate that on the page, because that's not easy to do.
Thanks. You hit it right on the head too. It's like exploring those emotions to the nth degree, even though they may not be representative of your true emotions. Like there's a sliver of reality in it, right? Like if I feel depressed, how can I simulate going all the way and put that message out there and put that emotion out there without myself getting lost in that emotion? And I think that's a very fine line to straddle. And those that do it well, you see it in like artists and musicians that you know, like, of course, the reality sometimes get blurred with like, oh, this person really is depressed. But
right.
But, you know, like, that's a lot of where the powerful emotion comes in. And it resonates with a lot of people because, you know, they go through the same trials and tribulations in their life.
Right. Yeah. And people can come out of it and have issues because they get too enraptured in it. And there's a lot of stuff that goes on. So
Mhm.
like you said, it's a vulnerability and you can see that. So even though you're making whatever it is, Buster, you're making a cartoon, right? And it looks like the aesthetic is something cutesy. It conveys a lot more and that comes across. So a true talent that you have there. And so
Thank you.
besides, go ahead.
Oh, so thanks.
Oh
Thank you.
yeah, and of course. And besides the emotions and kind of exploring that, do you find anywhere else that you draw a lot of inspiration?
Yeah, so yeah, as you alluded to earlier, like I'm a huge gamer. I've been playing games my entire life. Actually, the video games, as much as I love video games, has been an impetus, or not impetus, has been kind of like the reason why I haven't focused so much on art because I just love playing so many video games. If you so if you guys ever played the video game Journey, I have Journey tattooed on my arm. It's my favorite game of all time.
Oh
Um,
wow.
but I love video games. I draw influences from my significant other. Like she introduces me to like a whole another world of stuff. I'm like that I'm not in. Like I wasn't interested in before, but now I am because yeah, exactly. There we go. Her stuff is cool. It's like it's such a different style, but I incorporate a lot of it into my own art because she's just a very positive person, and that I feed off of that. But yeah, everything from my own interest in terms of like street art, hoops, fashion, design, um, everything, friends, family. You know, I look at I went to go visit my family for the first time in over a year because of COVID, and after spending time with them, it's like, oh, I just want to create art about them, you know. When we alluded to social issues, I see stuff that happening in the news, and I'm like, oh, I want to make art that represents Asian people and Asian Americans as a culture, and yeah, just whatever. There's just so many things, so many amazing, terrible, awesome, horrifying things out there in the world that I'm constantly like, yeah, I just constantly have inspiration to create and to talk and to discuss about life.
That's awesome. A lot to unpack there because you hit on like a few things that I had questions for you about. First of all, a lot of people know you from some of the work that you put in with, the NBA Top Shot community and with basketball. Can you talk a little bit about your love for hoops and how that plays a role in your art?
Yeah, so I'm like a huge sports fan. NBA is definitely my favorite sport to watch. I'm a diehard Clippers fan, so all I know is pain. Um, and yeah, like it's been a good constant in my life to be able to follow. Like I think like basketball is just it's an anime for sports nerds. It's like the storylines, following people's growths, from young stars to like potential Hall of Famers, watching people struggle, watching people overcome, watching teams come together to unite to try to achieve a common goal, and having other people who are fighting them for that same goal. There's so many parallels to life in sports and basketball specifically that like. And in terms of that, like it's just a very beautiful sport, in terms of like shot, like the shooting motions, dunking. It's very fluid, yet very intense at the same time. And just it's a perfect sport to make art of. And you go on Instagram, you see so many awesome artists that feel the same way. Like the motion of basketball and the motion of hoops is really cool, and just I think the NBA in itself just has so much style ingrained into it, both from a fashion standpoint and from a play standpoint, and it really relates itself to art.
Yeah, I would agree. I played at some point in my youth, and to me, I thought it was artistic the way that you could, leverage different moves and kind of put on a move set to score or do whatever you would do in basketball. I'm sure it was really ugly, quite honestly, if anyone watched me. So if you're listening, I don't want to hear the comments, but I definitely could correlate. In any sport, I'm sure people feel the same way if they're really into football or whatever, that is just poetic and it's art in motion. So I have to ask, who's your favorite player?
Of all time?
Yes.
Ooh, I lean towards Vince Carter. I was a huge Vince Carter fan when I was growing up.
Really?
I loved him in the dunk contest. I mean, Man, that's hard because when I was younger, I rooted for so many different players. I'm a huge Gary Payton, Sean Kemp fan. My current favorite player, I would have to say, is Damien Lillard. Just in terms of how he carries himself, his clutchness, but being an overall positive leader, strong impact in the community, from the Bay Area, and just how he carries himself. I think Damien Lillard is definitely up there.
Okay, I think I've shared elsewhere. I don't know if you heard, but that's what I rock when I actually do get out there and embarrass myself, is the camo Dame 5s.
Oh, nice. Dude.
I need them because they have this little the guard on the side of the foot, and I'm always turning my ankle over. I'm too clumsy. So, but I am a big Dame fan also, and of course we've shared this in the past. I'm a huge fan of the Rain Man. I thought that Sonic's team was awesome to watch back then. I had the first Kemps. I think they were like some really shoddy Reeboks. They were just plain black with like a kind of teal colored Reebok logo on it. But I loved them because they were the Kemps.
Dude, the Rain Man and there's just so much swagger between those two, so much like snarl, so much just playing the game with such a high intensity. It's like you couldn't help but gravitate towards them.
Yes, and I would assume if that was the kind of basketball that you were drawn to, that you would also be a fan of the Fab Five.
I like the Fab Five. Fab Five was dope. Jalen Rose, I used to listen to him a lot on the podcast. Chris Webber was sick too. I think Chris Webber was ahead of his time in terms of being that size and speed. He definitely
was. I was barreling down the lane thinking I'm Chris Webber, all 5'11" of me. So he definitely influenced. Exactly, throwing bows. So in that vein, I know you're active with the Top Shot community as well. At some point, you were drawing some art and working with them in some different projects. I think you've been on a couple podcasts as well. And Top Shot, is something that we actively discuss here. We have a segment on it, Hang Time, because it's great in that it's bringing people into the NFT world without really knowing it, right? So, I think that gamification of it and making it accessible for people is going to do wonders, and it's pulling in people that just have the love of basketball, and next thing you know, they're in our community buying artwork, right? There's probably some people that are going to watch this interview now that are on our Discord because of the Swish Fantasy League that are going to say, hey, I need to pick up a Jordan or a Shaq motion piece.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Top Shot community, it's kind of crazy how life works out, because when I discovered Top Shot, the day before, I had kicked it with a buddy of mine. He came over and we had dinner, and he was just telling me how he was getting into physical card breaking, so like opening packs and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, cool, that's cool. I used to collect basketball cards, like Pokemon cards, so tell me more about it. The next day, I was on Reddit, which I was on way too much, but I was on Reddit on RNBA, and someone had posted a link that only got like 4 upvotes, and I just happened to see it because I was browsing RNU. That it was like, LeBron James moment sold for $100K. I was like, wait, what? Digital collectible? What is this? And then through that like conversation with my friend, and then seeing this, I dove into Top Shot, kind of just like, oh, hey, this looks kind of fun. I would just put a little bit of money into it. And yeah, and exactly, like that was my introduction to the NFT space. Because what I did was, when I couldn't buy packs because packs weren't available, I would go on to Top Shot, the Discord, and kind of trade doodles, like crappy NBA doodles. I call them crappy, and then just trade them for moments, like cards. And people were giving me like $2 to $3 ones. I was like, yeah, I could start my collection. This is dope. And the popularity of that grew to the point where people wanted to commission stuff, and I was getting like larger valued cards. I got hit up by a private Discord server. Shout out Top Shot Snipers, really good group of guys who just represent everything positive about like the NFT community, and like helping other people get into it, but also thinking forward in terms of like growing. So yeah, participating in those communities and really helped me learn about NFTs, learn about how to not only market, but market in a genuine way, how to interact with people in the community, how to shoot your shot with certain people. Like Tyrese Halliburton, I made artwork for him. I just DM'd him like, hey, I made some artwork for you, and he responded, and that led to other opportunities. Like I know Harrison Barnes, I had a conversation with him in terms of like the artwork, and it was cool, man. It opens so many doors, and like even if I make no money from this, I'm totally cool with it, because it's like, dude, I'm getting to interact with people that I look up to, people that I watch on TV, people that I grew up watching. Like you saw a Baron Davis piece. I sent one to him and he hit me up too. Like we exchanged emails and I'm going to have a chat with him soon. So that's a trip because my first Clippers jersey was Baron Davis. And that was like I'm at this point where like it doesn't feel real. It feels like I'm dreaming.
That's amazing.
So the Top Shot community, like you said, is a lot of people's intro into the NFT space, and it's done in a way where like it has the trifecta of being like a very popular sport, a very forward-thinking sport. It's done on its own blockchain Flow, which kind of skips a lot of the hoops of Ethereum, because I think Ethereum does have a certain level of a barrier of entry that's required in order to access it. So, and I just captured it like right at the end of this whole COVID thing. So I think, the Top Shot community and the Top Shot as a whole has really propelled interest into the NFT space. I'm getting hit up by random people who aren't tech savvy at all, and they're like, "Oh, hey, I saw you're doing NFT art," and I was like, "Oh, how do you know about that?" And they say, Top Shot. And that's dope. That's cool,
Yeah, definitely. But the art style that you use in these, and this is probably a lot of people's introduction to your work, you use in a lot of your other work as well that's not MBA related. How would you describe your aesthetic?
Ooh, that's a good question because it bounces like from art piece to art piece. Recently, I like you said, I've been getting into like more glitch art, very saturated, neonish colors, like lots of purple and pink and hues are very constant throughout my artwork. I don't know how you would describe it, because I struggle with it sometimes because it bounces from piece to piece. But I think that's very rooted in like pop art and street art. A lot of influences from that, and a little more lighthearted, depending on the piece. And I would probably say that. And
relative to the color palette, someone actually asked a question about that. They said, how do you choose your color palette? Because they seem both intense and soothing at the same time.
Yeah, so that's a great question, by the way. How I choose my color palette, I think I tend to gravitate, like I said, towards purples, and then purple, I think, just has a very kind of calming feel to it. And I'd like to pair it with like pinks and blues and trying to like put it all over the place, but not to a point where it gets blindingly messy. Because sometimes I'll play with art and I'll play with a lot of colors, and sometimes it gets to that point. So I tend to fall back to my known colors. I do want to venture out into different color palettes, like using more like oranges and greens and browns. But it's a learning process. I don't want to put stuff out there until I get it right. But how I choose my colors, it's funny because I watch artists and people who are like really methodical with how they approach their artwork. And I feel like I'm not methodical at all. I kind of just start with a kind of a doodle and build off that. And sometimes I'll just have the color wheel open on Procreate, and I'm like, okay, this color is the next color that I'm about to use, and this color is the next color I'm about to use. But whereas some other people pre-select like 4 or 5 colors, and then they build entire art pieces off that. So that's something I want to learn and get better at. But as of right now, it's almost like ad hoc how I choose my colors.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. We've had some amazing artists on that have said that they sometimes they don't even go in with that solid of a plan, right? They kind of put the brush to the canvas and it's aggressive, and they let that aggressive feeling kind of take their arm where it will. Or some people put on music, and before you know, they're flinging their arms around and creating something. So whatever the process is for you, it's definitely working. But we'll look forward to seeing some of those experiments. But talking about your aesthetic, I had to ask you, who is Buster? Who is this guy that keeps getting referenced over here?
So Buster originally came out, I just made like a doodle of him, and then it was just like him riding a bike. And then this was before he was named Buster. And I really liked how his face came out because I kind of based his face off my younger brother, who's like very stoic, like kind of like apathetic. And he kind of has this kind of blank look on his face, and I wanted to capture that with Buster. I wanted to create a character who is like very obviously influenced by 90s cartoons. Like, I'm a huge Fresh Prince fan. It's probably one of my favorite shows of all time. And I grew up, a lot with like hip hop culture and Black culture because of lack of Asian representation growing up. There was no Asian representation to latch onto. So growing up, I really saw myself like getting influenced by like Gerald from Hey Arnold, Fresh Prince, Dave Chappelle, like all those really pivotal influences on my life. And Buster is kind of a reflection of that. He's this kid who just constantly has a blank look on his face, but he does dope shit. That's the way I present him, is like he's also lifted from Dave Chappelle. But Buster is dope and he does dope shit. So every time you see Buster, I just want you to think like, oh man, even though his face expression is kind of blank, what he's doing or what he's in, or this art piece that he's portrayed in is dope. And that kind of carries it through, because I think Buster and his buddy Chudy, the Asian girl that I draw with, like having them as the constant in my art pieces allows me to explore a bunch of different art styles and color palettes and themes while maintaining some level of consistency.
Right. Yeah, I was going to ask you about Chudy as well. Looks like, is that just a companion, or was that also based on someone that you knew?
Chudy, I had always wanted to. I think of Chudy and Buster as like me, like split into two people. Where Buster is like a lot of my influences from like media, in terms of like music, TV, sports. And Chudy is the half of me that's represented by strong Asian female figures in my life. Like a strong mother, strong significant other, strong grandma, aunts, friends, family. Like my life has always had strong women characters. I wanted her to represent that. I wanted her to be like a fierce, take no bullshit type of person, to kind of contrast with the kind of laid back, stoic attitude of Buster. And then I made them best friends, just so that they're always doing cool shit together, like raising the dead, or like getting mixed with some shady shit, shady but legal shit.
Right. Be careful now, because you said it's you split in half, so we don't want to incriminate anybody on our Whale FMs here.
Right, exactly. I didn't do nothing wrong, FBI. I know you're watching. Chill out.
And in that vein, how about the ghosts? The ghosts are a recurring theme as well.
So with the ghosts, I like the idea of playing with spirits, and then I think in Asian cultures, ghosts and spirits play a very big, prominent role in like when someone passes away, it's like you make offerings to kind of make sure that they have a good life on the other side. And the way I think about ghosts in terms of Buster and Chudy is they have this kind of cool, like supernatural relationship with ghosts, where they can summon ghosts, they interact with ghosts, they might be possessed by ghosts. But also, Chudy's backstory is that she, at least the way I see her as canon, is that her family is all like her main family has all been lost. She has no family left. They've died through one way or another, and Buster is her only living family member. That's why they're so tight. But because she is so tight with her family, she loves being around ghosts and being around them and being supported by them and using them to uplift her. And they're just constantly around her in her life. And Buster is kind of the same way.
Very cool. Yeah, it's interesting. You talk about not being really tied to a specific medium and doing experimentation, but by having these characters that you carry through, it kind of binds it together with a voice, and that voice is symbolic of you. So you've told us, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Like it's a way for me to express emotions through like kind of these avatars. Yeah.
And so when you catch a vibe and you start creating, like, what's that process like for you? Is it something that you touch on and then come back to it and work through it, or is it like you get a cathartic burst and next thing you know you have a piece done in an hour? What's the process like?
Very much the latter. I think with the advent of social media, like my attention span has just completely been shot. But even dating back to when I was younger, my attention span has always been short. Like I would get frustrated when I work on something, and then after like a couple hours, I tend to rush through the end, and that's been happening to me all my entire life. Something I've been trying to get better at, but in doing that throughout most of my life, I've gotten kind of adept at making art really fast, for lack of for better or for worse. And I think there's pros and cons to it. Like when I kind of capture that kind of cathartic burst of energy and creativity, I really want to get it out right away. I want to have the idea in my head out as soon as possible, because a lot of times I'll make art for other people, and then I'm for a while I made a lot of like memes, like Clippers memes and sports related memes. And meming is as wild as an art form it is. I think it's so interesting because you're trying to capture so much inside joke humor in a single image, and then in terms of like posting it to RMBA or like a Reddit or something, you're trying to capture it immediately and do it as fast as possible. So it requires you to kind of think of like, oh, let me make a joke out of something that literally just happened 5 seconds ago, create it as fast as possible, and post it as fast as possible to see what other people think about it. And kind of developing that ability to create things in short amount of times. I think that's one thing that I think I have been better at than other things. But at the same time, it really, like, I do want to eventually focus more on longer pieces that I can sit back and come back to, because, like sometimes I'll feel like I'll make something in like an hour, 2 hours, and I really like it. But at the same time, you can tell at other people's art, they spend like 50 hours to 100 hours on it. And to me, it feels like it's on a different level. But at the same time, it's like, oh, maybe I just have to do me. And that's the kind of, like I mentioned earlier, the anxiety that I deal with, and kind of straddling that line of what I should and shouldn't do.
Yeah, you had mentioned somewhere, I don't recall exactly where I saw it, but juggling with doing things that are good enough versus failing, because some people can get so caught up in process that they don't move forward, or they don't have the output that they can. It's, and like a lot of things, I know in my work, I've had some mentors that have told me, if you give everything your A effort, you won't get much done. Right. You got to be able to know when to focus and when to not. But this is just my personal opinion. There are people that do amazing stuff that are so detailed and meticulous, and that's cool. But I also really love when I know someone's super creative and they just had a burst and that's what came out, because it's so authentic when you get something raw. It's like when you hear a musician that you love and they just had this amazing song that they just thought of and they were really feeling it. And then later on they say, hey, this is my remaster of it. I redid it without my accent or without those gasps of air. And you're like, no, you know what I like? I like that original that I got used to, because that was real. Right. So there's value in it, in my opinion.
Yep. Like that. Sometimes you'll read about like musicians and rappers, or that say like, oh yeah, I just jumped into the studio and banged this song in an hour, and you're like, dude, that's like one of my favorite songs of all time. You spent an hour on this song. It's really fascinating to that people have that level of creative ingenuity to create something in such a short amount of time. And not to say that I'm on that level, but that's something that I have become more comfortable with as I've gone older, and kind of being more comfortable with myself and who I am as an artist. That, hey, people that make that kind of crazy, long-term, meticulous art, it's incredible. There's a lot to learn from them. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be that way as well.
Right, definitely. And while I scrolled past it, I wanted to make sure I touched on this. You're no stranger to addressing social issues. It's prevalent in your art, in all kinds of manners. In fact, you've had some controversial pieces. Talk to me a little bit about, social activism and how you feel that your art should play a role. And please let the group know about this piece here and what happened.
Sure. So that piece is called Americana. I created this in response to everything that happened last summer with the police brutality, with George Floyd, Breonna Taylor. And I went out to go protest in San Jose because, it was infuriating seeing someone get killed, seeing someone have a knee on their neck for 8 minutes and 48 seconds. Just maddening, like no human should ever go through that. And I had a lot of anger towards police brutality, like towards the system that has historically been very oppressive to many people in this country. And I wanted to make an art for that. I wanted to show something that was powerful, made a statement, and I displayed Chudy on top of a police car holding an upside down flag. The upside down flag is an actual U.S. like it's a U.S. flag code for a distress signal.
Right.
And I created it, and like I just posted it, and then there was an artist call for in San Jose by the city. They reached out to a bunch of local artists saying, "Oh, we're doing a exhibit at San Jose Airport. We're going to display like kind of a 9-month gallery where like every month they rotate some stuff out." So I submitted it. I was like, "Oh, I submitted 3 pieces. They chose 2 of them, as you saw right there. That we got this one." And the Americana one wasn't the first rotation. And I was over the moon. And I never had any art displayed in a public gallery before. And I was like, oh, especially at the airport. Ironically, COVID hit, so like no one got to see it. But it was still cool to be there and to have it
100%.
Yeah. So what actually ended up happening was like, so it was supposed to be up a month and a couple days, and about like 3 days before it was supposed to get taken down, there was complaints. I think there was complaints from multiple people. There was complaints from the police officers that had worked at the airport, saying that, oh, they think this piece promotes violence against officers, which I can see. I can totally see why they think that. Being a police officer, like, or imagining myself in their shoes, like I can see why they did that. And there was another dude on Twitter who, unimportant person, but he complained about it too. And then I woke up one morning and I got some messages on Instagram from like different news outlets. I was like, oh, well, what's going on? They're like, oh, can you comment on the controversy? What controversy? What are you talking about? And then someone from like NBC hit me up and he's like, oh, can we get an interview with you? I was like, oh, okay, this is some real shit. So I addressed it. I learned about it, and then turned out that later that day, the city manager of San Jose had decided to take down the art piece for whatever reason that they believe in. And that sparked a huge controversy of them taking it down. Like there was a lot of discussion about, what was or wasn't valid to be displayed, whether or not it was a inflammatory piece. I didn't make it as antagonizing. I mean, I captured the moment of, I wanted to capture the moment of the very real thing that happened in this country. So they took it down, and there was it sparked a lot of discussions in terms of censorship. I got a lot of support from local artists, from other city members, from friends and family. It was really positive overall, and I think the biggest thing I wanted to come from it was dialogue and discussion, because this had happened in November, and the whole George Floyd incident happened back in, I think, May, and so we got a couple months past it, and I think talks had started to die down, and this, at least in some circles, sparked it up again and became a thing with the city. And I was honored that it was taken down. I was proud, because if they had left it up for 3 more days and it just went down, no one would have said anything. But the fact that it got as much publicity as it did, I was glad that it was able to spark more dialogue on those topics, because those dialogues need to persist just as long as we're alive.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think the fact that they took it down is meaningful. And I love what you said in that, whether you agreed with it or not, or whether you felt X way or Y way, the fact that you felt something means something. And for us to be able to come together and have the conversation is the important thing, especially in this culture of this cancel culture kind of thing going on, where people don't want to have tough conversations. Are there things that should be removed? Sure, but we should be able to talk about them and have the discussion, and then get different vantage points. That's how positive things come about, not just by, shutting the door and everything without the dialogue. But like we had mentioned earlier, right? When you evoke emotion, when you evoke a feeling, that's successful art. Right? That means that you made an impact. There's nothing worse. And well, I don't know. I'm speaking from my experience as a musician, right? So it's very different, but there's nothing worse than apathy. There's nothing worse than putting something out and it's just crickets. even from
Yeah.
people that you specifically show. Like, it's one thing if no one was exposed to it because of whatever, but you show someone and they don't even respond. I mean, then that's the worst. So, you got the opposite of that. So, that's big. And like I mentioned, it's not just Black Lives Matters. There's a lot of different things that you are advocating for and calling attention to. So, just wanted to point out that, you definitely have a lot of messaging within your art as well.
Yeah, thank you, dude. Yeah, like it's as you get older and you become more in tune with what's going on in the world and see just how, like you say, how divided we've gotten as humans, how just so much hatred in the world. And like, I think art is a powerful tool to explore positivity in that, like, to express emotion, to discuss all these negative feelings that people have, but also to heal, to build forward, to look towards a better future. Because like at every point in history, with every major movement, every major social movement, it's always been paired with art. You always see a surgence of really just amazing, beautiful art that comes from it. And I want to be a part of that. I want to be able to make a statement with my art, and like leave traces that are not just like, well, how can I phrase, like I want to make an impact. I want to make impact however I can, in what little capacity that I can, in my little bubble, my little room, my little world. I want to be able to help as many people as I come across, just feel better about their lives and feel good, and just remind them that, hey, if we just talk and just chill and just remind ourselves that how we have a lot in common, and people forget that, and that's okay. And hopefully as we talk more, people start seeing that your neighbors, your friends, people from different parts of the world, you guys have a lot more in common than you think.
Yeah, and I love this piece from you. You definitely wanted to speak out and express what you were feeling with some of the horrific events and recent times with some of the just ridiculous hate going around because of different things towards the Asian community. And this image, just without even looking at the caption, you see strength, you see defiance, you see anger, you see perseverance, and that's all just from the picture alone, from what you had said.
Yeah, I'm glad that got conveyed, because that's exactly what I wanted to portray. I just wanted someone to, like, this is who I am. This is what we are. This is we as a people. We are strong. We are fierce. We are determined. Like we're not gonna take shit from people. Like we've kept quiet for a long time, but like it's a different day and age. We got to stand up for ourselves, and I wanted to convey that. So I'm very glad that you were able to see that in the piece just off the picture alone.
Right, and again, a testament to the power of you being able to channel your emotion and your thoughts through your art. And I can't believe I'm 50 minutes in, and you are such an extraordinary artist. So we haven't even gotten to the NFT stuff yet, right? So I'm going to start making that transition, because there's a lot of people asking and they're curious about it. But before we hop to NFTs, let's make the bridge. How did you become involved in cryptocurrency or NFTs, if there wasn't a crypto midline there?
So how I got to crypto, I jumped into crypto back in like 2015, 2016, before the first crash, or the most recent crash rather. And I just kind of invested into like some Ethereum and some altcoins with one of my old roommates, my friend Alan, who kind of showed me the ropes.
Shout out to Alan.
Shout out Alan. Shout out Mace. Shout out Perry. But yeah, like they kind of guided me through that world, and then after a while, I kind of lost track of it, because after the crash happened, I was like, all right, I'm just gonna keep this in my wallet, my hardware wallet, and just let it grow over time and not think about it anymore. And then with Top Shot, it kind of pulled me back in. I was like, oh goddamn, you crypto world! Just when I thought I was out, you pulled me back in, and through Top Shot and through discussing with people and learning and discussing with the Top Shot sniper community and getting into NFTs, that's when I kind of dove back into it and kind of learned about it and kind of looked at it from a standpoint of not just like straight up just investing, because right now I'm just thinking about it from a creative standpoint. Crypto as a way to connect with other people and learn, and I'm not in it for the money. I'm not in it to whereas before it's like I'm in it as an investment, like as like stocks, but this time I'm in it to kind of explore the space and explore this wave of creativity that has come with NFTs.
Yeah, awesome. And that's a welcomed perspective, because there's a lot of concerns. I know there's people that have been doing this for 2-3 years, and they see people coming into the space and what looks like they're just trying to be part of the gold rush, so to speak, right? There's all this money in NFT now, and so they're saying, how can I translate the stuff I had done 10 years ago and throw it on the blockchain? Whereas it's clear from what you've shown in your other socials that this has been a consistent, this is who you are, this is part of your life forever, and now being able to share it and experiment, like you said, with some different things. In that vein, you have the smart contract. There's all kinds of incredible stuff that you can do, from AR and VR capabilities and mixing media. What are your thoughts on that, and how it could be applied to your artwork going forward?
Oh man, it's been crazy. Like what NFTs has really done for me in the past couple of months is that it really made me want to develop more as an artist, more so than I ever have in my life. Through like a combination of Discord, Clubhouse, and Twitter, and all these social media channels, where now I'm being able to interact with other creatives at a large scale. Like I grew up in the suburbs, and I've lived mostly in the suburbs in different cities all my life, whether it be like LA, San Diego, or here in the Bay. And when you're in the suburbs, it's hard to have a art community unless you go out of your way to find it and do it consistently. I feel like in urban cities, it's easier to be surrounded by creativity. And since I never had that, I'm a big proponent in that, like surrounding yourself with creative people in order to develop creativity. And I think that's what I found with this NFT space. You have so many people who are excited to make art, and who are excited to collaborate, and excited to just venture into this space that is exciting and scary and unknown. And interacting with those people and learning from them, and like just taking knowledge in, it makes me want to push to be better in all aspects. Like I've been trying to learn Blender. I've been trying to learn After Effects. Like I've been trying to take tutorials. I wake up early in the morning now, which is weird. Like for a while, like I'll wake up like 9 or 10, but now I'll wake up at like today I woke up at 6 for no reason at all. I just woke up at 6, like, hey, I want to make some art. That's been a very foreign concept to me, but a very welcome change, because I'm like so much more motivated to produce. So yeah, I'm constantly looking for ways to evolve, how to incorporate new things that I'm learning from other people, seeing different other art styles, and using that in my artwork. There's so much information out there, bro. It's overwhelming, but overall positive, and I hope to ride that for as long as I can, hopefully for the rest of my life. Hopefully that was the spark that I needed to really zone in as an artist.
Yeah, no, I saw that you had posted that you were working on different After Effects, and I'm like, I don't know that much about the process because I don't do this stuff to create visual art myself, but I'm like, what is it he's already doing? You're telling me he's going to get better than that? Like, I'm kind of scared of what's going to evolve from that. So I have some of your stuff up now. We have Rareable, which I think is where you had your first auction, right? It was this Jordan piece.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was funny you were saying earlier about like people like wanting to put their backlog onto the blockchain. Like when I first started off, when it was so new to me, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was like, oh, just let me throw on some random art into here that I have in the past. And now in retrospect, a month or two later, I don't regret it. It's like, oh, maybe I should have been more methodical and more intentional with what I put up there. And that's why with like all the recent stuff, I've been trying to like be more mindful of what I put up, just to kind of be aware of the eco effects of crypto. But yeah, Rareable and OpenSea were the two platforms that I started off on, and Rareable is where I've found the most success in terms of selling, which was cool. That LeBron one sold for like I think 1.5 ETH, the animated one. I sold the Charizard for like 1,000, and the Bulbasaur for like, or a Blastoise for like one ETH. It's been kind of crazy, bro.
So, yeah, talk to me about that. First of all, what are your thoughts on scarcity? I know you're working through what's the right formula for you, but I've seen you do some different experimentations on this, and I've heard you also talk about the Pokemon being an experiment, right? You were maybe not getting as much responses to some other stuff, so you decided to throw up some Pokemon and see what would happen. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so with the Pokemon thing, this was as I was like learning more about the NFT space and kind of venturing into it. I kind of created almost as a like a, not, kind of like just because let me see what will happen if I just decided to throw up a Charizard up there and see what it would do. And I put it at some astronomical price. I was like, oh, here, I'll put it up at 3 ETH on Rarible. No one bought it. And I was like, yeah, that's what I expected. I paid the gas fees on it. This is like the gas tax for experimentation. And then after a while, as I started getting more popular on the NBA Top Shot Discord, someone hit me up and then they said that they made an offer on the Charizard, and I was kind of shocked. I was like, oh, whoa, someone's making me an offer on this. And I was talking to him, and he was really cool about it. He was just saying like, I really love this piece. It speaks to me. Like, I love it more than the original card, and that made me feel really good because it's like now it's no longer about how much it's valued. Now it's in the hands of someone that actually really, really likes it. And he talked about he bought it for like $1,000 worth of ETH. He immediately got an offer for like I think 1.5 ETH, and he turned that down. And he got another offer immediately after that for like 2.5, and he turned it down. And he told me he turned it down. He's like, hey, I want to eventually give this to my son one day. And that was such a trip to me because what had originally been created as kind of this social experiment on my end ended up in the hands of someone who sees long-term value for someone he really cares about in his friend. And that was like, wow, that's crazy. That was like, that hit me in a way that I was just not expecting. And it was sick. And I think the guy who bought his name is Jaguar. He's dope. I like him a lot. And, much props to him.
Very, very cool. In that vein, I know you talk kind of openly on your Twitter and some of your different socials about some of the challenges trying to kind of break out in this space, right? You obviously have a ton of talent. There's a lot of noise with a lot of people rushing the space at the same time. And you allude to the highs and the lows of that experience, right? I'm sure one of the highs was when you woke up and had seen that a piece had sold, and then you may have pieces that you expected would and didn't. Where are you in that kind of process of self-discovery and how NFTs work for you?
So the thing about NFTs right now, I think where I'm at is like I really want to focus more on both branding and putting out work that I'm really proud of. I want to also put out work in price in a way where I'm not compromising my past sales, but also I don't want to get like over my head and start putting stuff for like 4 or 5 ETH at a time. Like again, it might be worth that much. I don't know. Maybe someone will thinks it's worth that much. So that is a learning process too. Like finding the floor of what I'm worth. With Top Shot, when I was doing the doodles, like I was doing it for $2 to $3 worth of moments, and then over time, I just found out, this is what people are willing to pay for your artwork for commissions, and like you said, this is a gold rush. A lot of people are in it just to make money fast because there's so much money in it, and I need to remind myself, don't fall into that trapping. Like the money, if you make a sale, it'd be nice, it'd be dope. I'm fortunate enough where I have a day job that allows me to kind of pursue this a little less stress, a little less stress than someone who is making a career out of this. So from that standpoint, I feel very fortunate. But at the same time, like I want to be able to be successful as an artist, and if like more value comes from that, then that would be icing on the cake. But the value that I'm finding now is through the collaboration and the interaction and being able to develop my skills and using this newfound excitement for art to further push what I can create.
Yeah, and it gives you it puts you in that position of that old dichotomy of, being able to focus on art or self-promotion. And that's something that a lot of people, try to find their balance with. And, some people fall on one side of the scale better than others. One of my failures when I was a musician is I always said, hey, I just want to make the music. Like, I don't really want to be on the blogs. I don't want to be out there talking to fans. And like, I feel like that's presumptuous. Like the dude talking about starting a band, just put out your music. But what I didn't realize, and it's something that you realize and you're starting to do by being here, and a lot of the best of the best that are getting a lot of the attention now, is that people buy the artists just as much as they buy the work. Like, technically it could be whatever, but people want to be vested in the person that created it. That gives it value. They have that connection to the piece more so than just the art itself, right? And so like you said, you have to work on it. You have to get out there. Now, some people, their way of doing that is by having a mystique, right? And they just try to be so abstract that they're not out there. But either way, they're making people feel and connect something to the artist. And so that's hard. That's a struggle for a lot of people, I think, as they're finding their way in this.
Yeah, that's a crazy line to walk, because like you said, like I was the exact same way. Like I felt like any promotion, any self-promotion felt almost dirty. It was like, oh, I feel weird just thinking about it. It's like not wanting to throw your own birthday party, right? Like I hate that idea. But yeah, as I'm learning through this, it's like, yeah, like I've come to the realization, at least, like part of me being like anxious about myself is like, I'm not good enough to let my art only speak for itself. I have to really put myself out there and, like have people see the person behind it. And as I'm doing it more, I'm becoming more comfortable with it and figuring out a way to do myself to promote myself in a way that's not like straight up just shilling. Finding like, strategies that are genuine, that approach it in a way where like, hey, I really just want people to see my art, and I hope that I can make stuff that makes people feel good. And as long as I'm in that mindset, I shouldn't feel too bad about, like promotion. But yeah, like you said earlier, I was totally in that boat, bro. Like I was totally like, oh man, shilling myself feels so weird. I want to take a shower. Like,
Right.
Now it's like, it's part of the process. And like you said, everyone does it. Everyone, it's part of the process.
Yeah, 100%. And I wanted to talk about this piece here. Now, this is a collaboration, correct? And did this come about from the Clubhouse community and interacting on there?
Yeah. So I was on Clubhouse with this artist Dario De Siena, and he is this Swiss painter who is just absolutely fucking mental. He's been doing crazy sales on OpenSea. He's been selling stuff for like 2 to 5 ETH, like just within 30 minutes of posting it. And he reached out to me. We were on this channel. He's like, oh, I really like your process videos and your glitch art. You want to collab on something? And I looked at his stuff. I was like, dude, this guy's sick. Hell yeah, I want to collab on stuff. I love his artwork. So he sent me one of his pieces, and I just glitched the shit out of it and sent it back to him. And he really liked it. And I posted it on OpenSea. I haven't made any sales on that yet, probably because all the sales for his stuff is on his channel, and he's way more prominent than I am. That's cool. I'm cool with that. But I was really, really cool to be able to collaborate with him, because it's another one of those things that this whole space has opened to me, is just how many other artists are just down to work with you and down to like to riff ideas and build cool shit and create cool shit. So yeah, this piece was done with Dario De Siena, and check him out if you can, because he is fucking legit.
Yeah, I definitely did go to his page and look, and you're right, he has some amazing stuff. But maybe this talks to what we were saying before, right? People are looking to invest in the artist as well, and so people are now discovering you. So I personally think we're at the onset, at the early stages of before you're discovered. So if I was drafting like a rookie team, believe me, you'd be a starter on it to keep with the basketball theme going here.
Thank you.
Any other collaborations in the works?
Yeah, so I'm working with Top Shot Snipers to do some NFTs for them. They're working on some secret projects right now. Other collaborations. So we'll see where that Baron Davis talk goes. I don't know what he wants to talk about, but hopefully that can lead to a collaboration effort with him. Yeah, right now it's just there's been a couple people that reached out to me. I also want to kind of make sure that I'm not spread too thin. That's one thing that in the early stages of this NFT space, I really kind of produced almost too much art. Like I was like from morning to night, I was just trying to make art, and I had reminded that there's a life outside of the screen. I'm down to collaborate. I'm always down to collaborate. I want to collaborate more with like beat makers and people who make music, just so I can pair it with my artwork. I think adding an audio element to an art piece really makes it just really makes it sick. So yeah, exploring different ways. So if anyone out there makes music, I would be more than happy to incorporate into my artwork.
Well, coincidentally, tomorrow is our first official blockchain beats, which will be the Whale FM equivalent with musicians instead of visual artists that focuses on the music. So we'll have a whole series for you to kind of keep your ear out for people that might be good matches for you. I'll try to keep an ear out too, and see if there's something in there. But besides collabs, what do you? I know you have something you got to be cooking up in the lab. I know you have a good idea that you're working on. What's next? What should we look for you to be popping out next?
What you have on the screen is my latest drop. I dropped out this morning. That is my Genesis piece on Foundation. I was very fortunate enough to get an invite to be part of Foundation. I got an invite from a very talented artist called No Pattern. I met through the Top Shot Discord. Really nice guy and just extremely talented. But yeah, I wanted to create something centered around Buster, just because Buster, I always joke around with my friends, like, if Buster's gonna take me to the promised land, however that may be. And I wanted my first piece on Foundation to be him. For those who are into fine art, it's like a riff off of the girl with the pearl earring. And yeah, it's just, I wanted to capture kind of his kind of innocence, done in a way that's modernized. And yeah, so that's available now on Foundation. If you would like to check it out or bid on it, that would make me really happy. It's starting off at ETH. Other things I got working on, let's see. I've been helping out my significant other with her shop. She's just launched her online storefront yesterday. She's been making dope stickers and pins, or not dope stickers and prints rather. And she launched on her birthday yesterday, and we've been kind of building up to that. So that's a project that I've been focusing on too, is helping her develop more as an artist and helping her achieve things that she wants to achieve in the art space, because I owe a lot of my art success to her. I almost give her full credit, just because before, when I met her, her positiveness and her outlook on life and her desires to always search for creativity really inspired me to do the same. And I want to see her become the best artist she can be as well, and she has that in her. She's dope. I love her a lot.
Very, very, very cool. Especially you can have that creative synergy, and I'm not sure, but I would think that at some point you guys might collaborate, or we might see some of her work in the NFT space as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny because she is actually not into NFTs, because she's a very eco-conscious, friendly person. So that was actually a point of contention for us for a while. We had a long discussion and debate about it, and kind of her pitching her side as to the ecological effects of cryptocurrency as a whole, and me offering my standpoint as an artist in this space where I understand that there's a lot of resources being used for cryptocurrency, but as artists, this is just something for us to explore. And we have very positive discussions about that. Maybe one day, that's why this is why she's my better half, because she keeps me in tune with being able to just be more intentional, be aware, being mindful of what I create, how I create it, where I create it on, and constantly explore ways which I can be a better person, not in terms of just being an artist, but just as a better person for the earth. And yeah, that has allowed me to talk about it more, to discuss it more, explore different blockchains that may not be proof of work, other ones that may be proof of stake. And it's hard now just because Ethereum is the dominant one in this space, but without her, I wouldn't even be thinking about it at all. Now,
right. And both in the, it sounds spiritually, mentally, it's a lot of complementary stuff going on and a good synergy between you two. But you could also see in the artwork, right? There's like hints of her style, only you have a little bit more. Well, I wouldn't say more. You have some of your own attitude and perspective that we talked about that's definitely injected. So it's cool to see the amalgamation of the two, knowing that in real life, it's synergistic, and so it is in this art as well. So awesome stuff. I know our group was super impressed. A couple of questions from the community. Is there
Sure.
a technique that you haven't incorporated yet, but you want to use it in the future?
Ooh. So one thing that I've been doing with Blender that I kind of exploring it, just I don't have the computer for it because it's fucking impossible to find a graphics card right now. But one thing I want to do is to do 2D/3D art in Blender, where you draw in the 3D space, but it looks kind of 2D and 3D at the same time. That's something I really, really want to explore. An old coworker of mine, a friend, Don Allen, the third, I don't know, some of you guys might know, he's pretty prominent in the VR space and AR space. He does a lot of AR work, and I think AR would be really cool to incorporate into my stuff. Yeah, more 3D, more motion graphics. I think up to this point, I've been very much like a single paint 2D artist, or single, I guess, canvas 2D artist. I've been trying to explore motion a little bit more. I saw recently there was a gallery in Atlanta hosted by Greg Mike for NFTs, and that's something that I really want to check out, like being able to transfer the digital art into the physical world by having, like your art up on screens, whether it be through projection mapping or these cool NFT themed frames. Man, there's just so much out there. Just every day you're exposed to new things, and I just want to do all of it.
Yes, I'm looking to grabbing a mural myself. So I think it's awesome. I think I had seen some pictures of some of these physical galleries where they were projecting and having them up, and your stuff, especially with some of the colors and whatnot, I think would just look amazing in that setting. I just wanted to make sure that you had an opportunity. If people want to find more of you, we're going to share your socials. Where would you ask people to look out for your next drop? Where do you want them to reach out to you, and what should they be looking out for in the near future?
Okay, so I think going forward, most of my prominent pieces are going to be done on Foundation. OpenSea I'll kind of reserve for in special cases, same for Rarible as well. But I think going forward, I'm going to try to drop everything on Foundation. If you want to hit me up, you can hit me up on Instagram. Instagram is a good place to start. That's usually where I post all my art, so you can get kind of a quick view of everything that might not be NFTs, just art in general. You can hit me up on Twitter. I'm always responding to DMs. Same on Instagram as well. And in terms of what's up next, I don't know. There's just so many things and so many avenues that I can pursue that, what's next for me is unknown but exciting. And I hope that whatever I make next will be dope and will be something that you guys will enjoy, and will be something that, like resonates in any capacity with people. So yeah, I look forward to what's next.
Awesome, man. We look forward to seeing it. And I just, before I let you go, had to say, amazingly, me and you made it through over an hour of discussion without talking about food. Because every time there's been any DM between us, it's tacos, it's pizza, it's everything else except art. So incredibly, or not incredibly rather, because we're talking about your artwork and what makes you tick, right? And so that's all amazing stuff. But we will have to catch up more on the food front. Eric, thank you so much for taking some time with the whale community today, and we look forward to seeing what you do next.
Hey, thank you so much, bro. It's been an honor. I appreciate it. Everyone in the whale community, you guys are dope. Thanks for being so welcoming. And Nytmare, you are the fucking man.
Take care, buddy.
Take care, bro.